Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Hope you could see me and hear me. Hello, hello. Let's see here, so get things a bit sorted out. Hello, Suleiman. So this is Unit 1. Just in case you're wondering, this is Unit 1 office hours. I know I showed up yesterday for Unit 2. But this is Unit 1 today. Let's run this code. Hello, Martha. Let's see here, we did question 2 yesterday. Hello, Abonga Musa. Hope things are well in Zimbabwe. What's the weather like in Zimbabwe? It's still warm here in Maryland. It's warmer than I am expecting it to be. I mean, it's getting cool in the evenings, but it's still warm during the day as well. I'm doing all right. It's Wednesday. Nearly halfway through the week. Things are flying by. Time's flying. What questions can I answer for you all today? Hello, Irene. Hello, Charles. Yesterday we did question 2 on the PW mini project. Hello, Emil. Is it Emil or Emil? I never quite know how to pronounce. Yeah, we could work more on the PW mini project today. Remember again, the idea here is to almost like a meal. Okay. Okay, thanks for that. We did question 2 yesterday, right? It was more list comprehension when it came down to it. So I went through this kind of example, right? One of our drugs, one of our BNF names, we had these groups that we created. Right, we created these groups. We could do this in a couple of different ways. This is a kind of easy way to do it. That we got our BNF names by creating a set of them, either using a for loop or a set comprehension. Once we have the BNF names, then we initialized a dictionary. So the keys were the names. We initialized a empty list. Then we iterated over the scripts and added the dictionary for each prescription to the appropriate list of prescriptions for that name. Right, and then we wanted to find these tuples. All right, we want to sum up the items in each group and find the BNF name with the largest sum. So, well, we wanted to sum up the items in each group. Talk about how to do this. So one of these names, again, this is the dictionary. We want to sum up the items values in each of these dictionaries. So we could iterate over this dictionary and compute the sum of the items, and we get this kind of tuple. And then we want to do this summation for every possible name in our groups. And we have a list of tuples, and then we wanted to find the tuple that had the largest second value in this tuple. We could do that with the max function, where we supply a key to the max function, where we say, all right, I want to prioritize or essentially sort these items by the second element in the tuple. Right? This is what this key right here is doing. I want to maximize, I want to find the maximum value over this list of tuples, but I want to maximize with respect to the second element in the tuple, and that's what we're doing here. And then the one final thing as well, we needed to submit a list with one tuple in it to the grader, and so, well, I wrapped a set of square brackets around this max function to get our list with one tuple in it. And again, as it says here, you know, we want a list with one tuple with a string and a total. So, right, you know, the important thing is, you know, can we do all this data manipulation? Hello, Raymond. Right, again, the main point of this mini project is to practice some data manipulation sort of by writing our own code, not using the pandas library. We wanted to write our own code to do this data manipulation, right? This lets us practice with things like creating a, this strictly speaking is a, would be a generator comprehension, because I'm not put brackets around it, square brackets around it, but that's fine because I'm feeding this into the sum function. Here, this is creating a list comprehension, right? I'm iterating over something and I'm computing something for each name. How can you solve this where the error returns undefined whenever I run something that's already defined? Meaning you're getting errors that say, you know, a function isn't defined or a class isn't defined, or make sure your capitalization, your case is correct. Like if you define a class with an uppercase P, like points, make sure you're using the uppercase P when you want to define an element of that class, right? Case matters in Python. Case matters, indentation matters. You know, make sure your parentheses match, your quotation marks match. Right, if I define a function and then I call the wrong name of that function, I get a name error saying this thing is not defined. So case matters, right? This should be a capital D, for example. Case matters. Case matters with variable names as well. Right, so make sure that you define a variable somewhere you're using the same name of the variable. Right, again, if I were to remove this underscore, I get a name error saying this thing isn't defined. Yeah, because I've defined something with this underscore, but I've left out the underscore right here. Right, when I get something like a name error, it's probably I've misspelled a variable, or I've not matched, misspelled also in terms of not matching the capital, the case, the capitalization, for example. Or, I've left something out. I define this function with an underscore, oh, I've left out the underscore, right? Yeah, it's not defined because I've left out the underscore. So be careful with those sorts of things. A name error, check your spelling, check your case. Had a challenge, as it says right here. And yeah, as pointed out, if you open a Jupyter Notebook, you have to run the code again, right? It doesn't remember the code that you've run. I mean, it remembers that you have run it in the sense that it might have numbers right here, but you're going to have to run that code again. Right, if I were to save and stop this mini project and come back and just run this code here in this one cell for max item, it's going to give me a name error saying max item isn't defined because I haven't run all this code up to that point. So yes, good point to remember. All right, if I ran code yesterday and I saved it in my notebook, I'm going to have to run it again. Here we want to, it says, write a function that constructs groups as we did above. The function should accept a list of dictionaries and a tuple of fields to group by. Return a dictionary of those groups. So right, we want groups, so I want a group for BNF name, or I want a group for BNF name and postcode. And I want to create a collection of groups, right? A dictionary of groups. So the idea here is as follows, right? So let's suppose Let's consider an example. I want to group by BNF name and postcode. So, or I want to group by BNF name, right? We have to first do something similar to what we did here. We have to essentially create the collection of keys for the dictionary. Here we were just wanted to group by the collection of BNF names. Later we might want to group by a pair. I might want a BNF name and a practice, like a doctor's practice. So we have to construct these kinds of keys. Here these keys were just strings. However, in this more general situation, I need to create the whole collection of keys. So again, I want to iterate over this in some fashion, but my key now is going to be a tuple of values. So if I want to group by BNF names, well, I'm going to create a tuple. It'll only have one item in it, but that's fine. If I want to group by a BNF name and a practice, I need to create all the possible pairs of those BNF names and practices. So, for example, suppose, right, I want my fields that I want to use, kind of using this variable here. My fields is I want to say group by BNF name and postcode. So what I have to do first is I need to create my my keys, my names. Let's call them my keys. So I'm going to iterate over the items in my scripts in this case. All right, so what do I have to do? I'm going to write down here, I want to iterate over the scripts in order to create the keys for the dictionary. My result will be a set, because the keys should be unique, right? So what do I want to do? I want to iterate over my scripts. I want to, for every prescription in my scripts, I want to create a tuple consisting of the BNF name and the postcode. But I want to do this more generally, right? I don't want to tie myself down to this particular tuple. I want to consider something which is more general, where this fields can be a tuple of any length. So I'm going to take, let's use the name item. So sorry, I want to create a tuple. I'm going to take a field F for F in fields. All right, I'm going to iterate over the fields in this tuple. So for this item, I want the BNF name and I want the postcode, and I'm going to create a tuple. And then I want to iterate for item in scripts. Have I misspelled? I'm obviously misspelled postcode. It has an underscore here. I don't think it has a. All right, let's look at. Oh, sorry, this is in practices. Yeah, postcode is in practices. Let's go for. Let's just illustrate. Items, right? Items is one of our keys. And if I look at my keys, I have a collection of tuples. Right, I have this tuple here with this number of items. I have this tuple here with this number of items, right? If I have repeats, they will automatically be removed for me from these repeats. If I had a tuple with one item in it, well, I get tuples with one item in them. Right, this comma right here is important in that this is creating a tuple with one item in it. So, right, so this is the idea here that I want to be able to feed in a tuple. Of course, I need these fields to be in my dictionary. So I have things like I have a BNF name. I have a NIC as well, right? So say I might group by BNF name and NIC. And then this would create all of my keys for my dictionary that I want to create. Right, so this is exactly similar to what we were doing before. It's just I'm allowing now to be grouping by more than one key in my original dictionaries. Once I create the keys, well, then I could say I could initialize my groups. I could say k empty list for k in keys. I create a bunch of empty lists, one for each key. And then what I want to do is I'd want to iterate over the scripts in this case. Say for item in scripts. I say my key k is again I want to create a tuple. I say item f for f in fields. I create my key and then I say groups k dot append item. And this will iterate over all these things, and then I have my groups at the end, which is a big giant old dictionary. So I have a key which is a tuple, and my value is a list. The list of all prescriptions that have this pair of BNF name and NIC cost in this case. Right, so again, all I want to do is I want to wrap this functionality up in a function so that then I could do this kind of operation. Right, so I'm kind of going to copy and paste here. I'm going to say my keys. I have to make one change here because I don't want to use scripts. I want to use this variable data. Data can be any list of dictionaries. My groups right here, again, I will copy and paste, and I will insert this here. I'll insert a space there, although it's not necessary. And then I have my for loop right here, which I want to copy and paste inside my function. Don't forget to indent the stuff in this for loop. Don't forget to change scripts into data right here, because again, I want this to work with any dictionary, any list of dictionaries right here. I usually put a blank line in before the return. It makes it easy for me to figure out what's being returned. I will define my function, my group by field. Let's try, I'm going to copy and paste again. Let's try. I'm going to do my group by field here on my scripts with BNF name. And I'm more or less reproducing what I had before. In terms of, I have a BNF name. It says a tuple now, a tuple with one element instead of a string. But if I do my group by field, then, you know, again, well, I could recreate my max item type of thing. I just have to be slightly careful because, again, now my key in my dictionary is no longer a string, it's a tuple that has one element in it. But I could copy this code, and I could basically, I think I should be able to reuse this code here with one small change. It's just, remember my name right here now is a tuple with one item in it. So I will take out that one item from that tuple. And hopefully, and my assert here is true. My test max item gives me the same thing that I had before with max item. Right, and the idea here is, well, I have this more general group by field function, and I want to use this going forward in question 3 and 4. Right, because again, I want to be grouping my data in some fashion. We could see here, so a couple things going on. Data is broken up among different files. It's typical to reduce redundancy. So, for example, the scripts data, remember, let's have a look at this scripts data, scripts :2. We have, for example, a practice key value pair in these scripts dictionaries. This is a code to identify a particular doctor's practice in the United Kingdom. Right, so this code is unique for a doctor's practice. Well, all right, I should probably not use the word unique. I think the same code might be used for practices in different locations, but it's like the same doctor at that practice, I believe. So again, the scripts data contains a code that identifies a doctor's practice. Our practices list of dictionaries has a code. It's called practice in our scripts. It's called code in our practices list of dictionaries. Right, so if I wanted to, I could figure out information about this practice by, searching through this list of practices and looking for the code, that would match this N81013. If I wanted to know what this practice was. What it was called, where it was located, postcode, etc. So, as we said here, if we want to find the total, what we would like to do is we want to find the total items prescribed in each postal code. We're going to have to join our prescription data to the clinic data, right? As again, we have to take, well, the practice in scripts, I want to identify with the code, this code field in practices. Because I need to, identify the postcode. I want a postcode and the total items prescribed in that postcode. Now, a use case, you might be wondering, well, why might we do this kind of thing? Well, I don't want to go into lots of details, but for example, you've probably heard in recent years about the opioid crisis, opioid epidemic, right? The use of opioids. And, opioids are addictive. Well, if we were examining this data, we might want to know, is there a problem with, maybe people taking too many opioids? Is there a postcode, is there a region in the United Kingdom where opioids are being overprescribed? They're being prescribed too much. So this is where we might want to do this kind of join of this data in order that we could figure out what items were prescribed or what items of a particular drug were prescribed, right? Here we're just looking at total items prescribed. Later on, we're looking at a postcode, BNF name, and amount dispensed as a proportion of the total. So right now, question 4, we're looking at a more finer level of detail. I want a postcode and the name of a drug. And I want to know, as it says here, the amount dispensed as a proportion of the total. Right, so this is just looking at a kind of overall total number of items prescribed. This is, kind of in some ways almost a warm-up for question 4. Because question 4, well, I want postcode and BNF name combination. I'm going to want to find the total items prescribed for a postcode BNF combination, and then I want to sum, all those things over a postcode to then find a proportion of that drug prescribed in a particular postcode. right? So I'm trying to give you, some motivation for why we might be doing this kind of data analysis. There's a few things we have to take care of. One is first we have to join our data. There's a little other wrinkle in here is that some practices have multiple some practices have multiple postal codes associated with them. Use the alphabetically first postal code. Right, so a practice code like this practice A81002. Maybe this doctor has different locations, even in different towns. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're in town A. Thursday, Friday, they're in town B. So a code may have multiple postcodes associated with it. We want to take the alphabetically first postal code. So this is the idea here that we are going to deal with this alphabetically first postal code to begin with. We're going to make an empty dictionary. I always like to make it more explicit that I'm creating like a dictionary by saying I'm creating a dictionary. I'm going to iterate over the practices. I check, right? So I'm going to make a dictionary where I have a code for the practice, i.e. one of these strings like A81002. If this code is not in my dictionary, well, I'll add it to my dictionary. I'll say, this is my key, and this is my value is the postcode. Right, so if this practice code is not in my dictionary, this is this else situation, I will add it to my dictionary. If this code is already in my dictionary, well, I want the alphabetically first postal code, but it's easy to get this by comparing the current value in this dictionary and this new postal code and take the minimum, right? Take the minimum of these two strings. So practice postal code. This is the value that's already in this dictionary. And practice postcode. This is this new postcode that we have found. Right, so again, if I have a new practice code that I found, I just save that postcode. If I have a code that I've already put in my dictionary, I might just update this postcode by taking a minimum of the postcode that I've already found and the new postcode that I've found and I probably practice postal, oh sorry, practice code. There we go. All right, I need this code. If practice bracket code and practice postcode, well, take the existing value, which is this value here, and the new postcode that I found, take the smallest value, min, compares strings, we'll get the alphabetically first postcode. All right, this is an aggregation of the practice data grouped by practice codes, write an alternative implementation using the group by field. So, you know, we could say group by field on my practices, and the tuple I want, the key I want is postcode as a tuple. This would do this group by field, right, and return this dictionary. What do I want to do here? Well, I want to iterate over this dictionary. So again, right, I would select a key. I'd iterate over the keys in this dictionary. For that key, I would have a list of dictionaries. I want to get out the code for each of those dictionaries and minimize the code. So again, right, I want to iterate for key in group by field dot keys. This is like the final, you know, iteration, final, sorry, I want to make a dictionary. What do? I take key 0, which will give me this, oh no, sorry, I don't want to group by postcode, I want to group by code. Apologies. Let's do this right. Sorry, I group by code, which is practice. Right, then I have a list of dictionaries that all share the same code. You see, here's an example where there are 2 postcodes, which indeed are the same. One is because it listed village as none, and the other is village as West Yorkshire, but there are indeed other situations, you know, where we have different postcodes. YO30, 6PS, YO24, 4HD, etc. So I want to create a dictionary. I want to iterate over the keys in my dictionary. Oops, remember a key is a tuple. Key 0 will give me the practice code. I want to take the minimum of item postcode for item in let's call this my group, for key group in group by field dot items. Right, so again, I'm taking my group by field, gives me a practice code and a list of dictionaries for that practice code. I'm iterating over these items. So key is going to be my tuple that has one item in it, which is my practice code. Group right here is going to be the list of dictionaries that have that practice code. I'm going to iterate over the items in that group and pull out the post code for each item in that group and minimize, and this will give me the alphabetically first post code for that group, where that group corresponds to a practice code. So practice, let's say practice postal alternative is this list, is this dictionary. What do I have practice postal, is that equal to practice postal alt? Yeah, these are the same two dictionaries. So the dictionary I get in this fashion is the same as the dictionary I get in this fashion using this group by field method that we wrote above. Here's a little test, is do we have the right postal code for this particular practice? Yes, we do. So now we could join this practice postal to scripts, right? I want to get information about the postal code of the doctor's practice into the information about the scripts, so that then I could group by the postal code and compute the sum of the items. I hope I'm making clear what it is I'm doing, right? I need to get the postal code of a doctor's practice into the scripts, so that then I could basically do the group by postcode and compute totals. Because I don't have the postcode in scripts, the postcode is in practices. And again, as we said, the slight wrinkle is some practices have multiple postcodes. We want the alphabetically first postal code. This is what we're dealing with here. To get the alphabetically first postal code. This is one way of doing that. Here is another way of doing that. Now I have the postal code for a particular doctor's practice, and we could do a kind of join by setting the postcode value for a script to be practice postal of the, right, I get out the code of the practice and use that as a key here. Right, now my joined data, I have a postcode inside each prescription item. Right, and now I want to, iterate over these different practice codes, doctors' practices. Group my joined data by postcode. Compute the sum of the items in each postcode. Well, this is again what we could use our group by field method that we've created. All right, so again, I do group by field on my joined data, and I want to group by the postcode. Don't forget the comma. Comma says this is a tuple. If I do my group by field method, again, I'll get a dictionary. I don't know why this is taking so much time to run. Right, but I group by postcode, and I get all the prescriptions within a certain postcode. So, in this postcode CW1, 3AW, so this postcode, right, I have a list of prescriptions, all with postcode CW1, 3AW in it. So now I want to iterate over this dictionary. Maybe I have to iterate over this dictionary in a different fashion. We won't do a comprehension. Let's iterate over it in a different fashion. I'll say totals is a new list. I want to create tuples for KG, for KV, let's say, in group by field. What do I want to do? I want to say V right here. I'm using KV. I'm thinking key value. My key is this tuple with one item in it. It looks like my kernel might have just crashed. Yeah, not surprising. So I need to go back and rerun some code. I'm not going to rerun all the code. I will, so I'll run this here, I'll run this. I don't need to download the data, I need to load the data. I need to define I don't need to define my BNF names, I don't need to run this code. I do need to run my definition of my group by fields method. I don't need to run this. I don't need to run that. I will run this code here. I'll skip over this code. I will run this assert statement. I'll run this bit to make my joined data. Right. So this is what I get in my group by field again. I get a key, which is a tuple with one item. My value V is this list of dictionaries. I want to say T is the sum of script items for item in V, totals of K0 is equal to T. Oh, sorry, I forgot my items right here. List indices must be integer. Oh, sorry, totals. Right, all right. Sorry, totals is a list. Append. I'll create a tuple of K0 and T. Sorry, I forgot my totals was a list. Right, so what do we want? We want a collection of tuples of this form. A tuple will have a postcode and total items prescribed. So remember my group by field. What does this look like? So I want to use my group by field method that I've written before. So remember my group by field, it looks like a dictionary. I got a tuple with one item, a list of dictionaries for that postcode. I want to iterate and sum over these items in this dictionary. So this is what I'm doing here. K is my tuple with one element in it, my practice code. V is my dictionary of lists. All right, remember, items gives me key value pairs. I'm going to iterate over the elements in my for script. Let's get the right totals. I'm iterating over my prescriptions in V. I pull out the number of items. I compute a sum. I get totals. Totals in terms of a postcode. and total items prescribed for that postcode. I want the sort the results ascending alphabetically by postcode, take only results from the first 100 postcodes. This is a problem dealing with big data, is that you might indeed kill your kernel sometimes. So tomorrow we will, finish off this problem. Indeed, part of the problem is even displaying the data. Running this right here to show the data is probably a bad idea. So tomorrow we'll finish this off, right? We'll get totals. We'll sort the totals by the first element in the tuple, and we'll keep the first 100 items and can submit to the grader. So I will see you all tomorrow, and as I said, we should be able to finish up question 3 tomorrow. Just got to be careful to run only the code we need, and don't display those huge dictionaries to screen, because that eats up a lot of memory, and that's causing us problems here. So I will see you all tomorrow.